nation. I'm a soldier, won't surrender. Faith is like a fire that never burns to embers. The voice of the unheard. Love is the answer.
I gotta speak it, believe it, that's how I feel inside.
I can't sit here quiet.
You can take my heart, you can take my breath when you pry it from the cold dead chest.
This is how we rise up. Heavy as a hurricane, louder than a freight train. This is how we rise up. Heart is beating faster, feels like thunder. Magic static, call me a fanatic. It's our world, they can never have it. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us. Can you hear me? Are you listening? Sleeping and the shadows could be making history. Through the fire, on the water, used to be a slave, but now you are a conqueror.
They can take my heart, they can take my breath when they pry it from the cold dead chest.
This is how we rise up. Heavy as a hurricane, louder than a freight train. This is how we rise up. Heart is beating faster, feels like thunder. Magic static, call me a fanatic. It's our world, they can never have it. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us. Up, 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 up. We're rising up, 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 up. Rising up, 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 up. We're rising up, 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 up. Rising up, 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 up. We're rising up, 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 up. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance. You can't resist us. This is how we rise up. Heavy as a hurricane, louder than a freight train. This is how we rise up. Heart is beating faster, feels like thunder. Magic static, call me a fanatic. It's our world, they can never have it. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us.
And welcome everyone to another episode of Straight Talk with Joe Villano. I am glad as always that you are here. Tons of emails from the last two shows. Oh my God. It's hard to keep up. So if I have not answered your email yet, please be patient. I am getting to it. It's been a long week. I was gone for most of the week, but I promise I will get to your emails back, and I try to respond as quickly as possible. So please just be patient. I know most people watch this show after we are done, and they watch it during the week. So I appreciate all of you who do take the hour out of your week to go ahead and listen to the show and to comment and to send me the emails. I always appreciate them. But for those of you, obviously we have some new people to the show, and that's great because we keep expanding the show, and that is partially due to you guys who, again, just keep on spreading the word of what we're trying to do here, and it seems to be working. For those of you who are new to the show, I am Joe Villano. I am your host, your guiding light through what can be absolute chaos going around our country, our state, and our city over the last couple of years. Actually, it's been more than the last couple of years. It's been going on for a long time. We've just been on here for the last couple of years. We're going to be celebrating our second year already. Can you believe it? March will be, I think it's March 12th is our second year here on the show. So again, I thank everyone for watching and for sharing the show. And of course, this show always works best when you are involved. So if you want to join in on the conversation, you can always give us a call, 203-679-9610. We haven't had a call in a while. Are people getting afraid to call? I don't get it. Or you can email us, straighttalkjv@gmail.com. Or of course, if you're on the If you're on social media, if you're watching through Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Stream, whatever the platform you're on, you can always join in on the chat. We are always have that up and running, and of course, email, and you could always call in. So the big question that I keep getting all week long for last maybe 3 weeks or so is, what is my beef with everybody? And I don't have a beef with anybody. No matter is it one person, one group, or whatnot. And then the other one was my favorite one of the week was, can you please explain your fall from grace in the Republican Party? And I listen, like I say to everybody who I meet, everything happens for a reason, and everybody is brought in. Let me get this off the screen here. Everything is everyone has a purpose. Everyone has a purpose, no matter what it is. And I am not, I don't have an ego enough to sit there and say that I am the end all be all and every Republican should listen to me or everyone should listen to me. Listen, make up your own mind. I will tell you what I think, and that's about it. Now, in the past year and a half or so, I've been more vocal than ever about where I stand on certain things, and certain times I have pissed off people in the Republican Party, and that's okay. Listen, I've pissed off Democrats all the time. In fact, I think I'm public enemy number one for Democrats, and that's fine too. So the fact that I take it from both sides now, from some, now again, that's not all. It's not all, but I do take some from the right. And listen, let it be what it be. I don't care. And I think that's the most important thing, is that I just don't care about what people think. And that's taken a while for me to get to that point where I used to care a lot about what people think. And you didn't want to ruffle too many feathers. Now, I mean, most people say it started 2 years ago. When we wanted to change the Republican Party up. And I think we did that successfully. I think it was for the better. Now, like I said, everybody has a time and place. For me, I guess that was my time that I felt I could make some change, and that's what we did. And then I think about a year and a half ago, I think that it was time for more change. Because without change, you can't grow. And I hope everybody remembers that. If you want to grow in anything, in business, in your personal life, in anything, you need to welcome change. And sometimes that change may not have you included in it. And that's okay. Because maybe you need to let that go in order to grow, in order to move further in your path. Because we all have a path. Whether you want to believe that or not. You are setting your path, and not everybody around you is gonna be on that journey with you. For me, I find that politics lately, no matter which side of the aisle you're on, is very toxic. Because it's no longer about, and again, this is me personally how I feel, is that politics and politicians today don't care about you. They don't care about the taxpayer or doing the right thing. They believe more in, does the other side like me? I want to play nice in the sandbox. Or they want control and power. Or they like the control and power. Maybe they like the title. So I find that even in the city of Meriden, that's what it's become. And for me, it's very concerning. When I honestly don't trust either side anymore of those elected in office, and there's a couple I do. There's a couple that I think there's good things, and I have hope in them. But when I find that I just don't trust either side, even in the city of Meriden, even for people that I know, and don't get me wrong, I like them personally, but as a politician, I have deep concerns. And the thing is now, again, and it's taken me a while to get here, is that I just don't care. And I think I said it at during one of my other shows, is that I'm at a level of fuck you, where I'll say whatever I want because I don't care. To see, the one thing about politicians is that they want people to need something from them because they want to use that power so that they could do favors for certain people, so therefore they're in debt to you. I want nothing from anyone. And I don't think most people realize when you get to that level how freeing it is. But it also makes you an enemy of those with power. Because you're dangerous to them now. And they will do everything they can to try to assassinate your character because that's all they have left. And they could try because most people will run and hide. Now, everyone who's been listening for us knows that we don't run and hide from anything. Because at the end of the day, their opinion of us doesn't matter. We just try to put the truth out there. And again, I'm not here to try to persuade you. I'm simply here to give you information that you could then go and research for yourself and make an informed decision. That is what I try to do here on a weekly basis. So when I get all the emails about, oh boy, you pissed off this person, you pissed off that person, oh, they're talking about you here in City Hall now. That kind of stuff doesn't bother me. If anything, I'm like, good, let them be talking about us. That means they're listening. That means they're paying attention. Now, we did get another letter from another concerned citizen in City Hall about something else going on there. We're trying to verify everything, so I'll probably talk about it next week. But again, I welcome those letters. I encourage those letters. Because the sad thing is, we're their last option. And again, I take that with great responsibility. When someone writes me one of these letters, I take it to heart because they actually took the time to write it and to mail it to me. Now, do all these letters reach the level where I'm going to go check it out? Maybe. Not all of them. Some of them are just a little too much for me, where I'm just sitting there looking at them like, all right, come on. And I just kind of throw it to the side. But then there's some that come in and I look at them like, what the frig? And that I will do some research on and then determine or not whether it's something that we need to push forward on or something that, is just somebody bitching and complaining. And trust me, it happens all the time. But the fact that we are an outlet for them, for city employees, is somewhat gratifying and sad at the same time. Because the fact that they have to be this way tells me what craziness we have going on in the city, at City Hall and our Board of Ed, and everywhere else in between. But just know, for all you who are out there, I do get your letters and I do read them. And again, I do respond to most of them. And we do research them. So again, keep them coming and we'll do our best. That's all I can promise. That we'll do our best to bring these things to light. Because again, the more the public knows, the more you're going to be informed to make good decisions down in the future. I know some people are still pissed off at me about this whole bringing an independent line next week. I heard about that all. I heard about that while I was in Florida. And people, you could be upset. People could be upset from either side of the aisle about it. But I think that's something that would be great. I think that's something that everybody should welcome. And charter reform. Why some are against charter reform, especially on the council, is beyond me. Now, I got a councilman said, well, we should be doing it when Democrats have a supermajority. Democrats always have a supermajority. They had a supermajority when they passed the current one. It was 11-1. I will sit there and say this. Put your big boy pants on and be ready to dig in and have a fight. For once, have a spine and turn around and bring it to them. The people have a right to have their say. And charter reform is going to happen next year. We are going to get that. We are going to get that going, that it will be passed. All I say is get ready. Because this election coming up will have a great effect on how that charter reform moves forward. Now, for those who say, oh, there's a supermajority, how much worse can it possibly be? For every Republican in office that's sitting there crying, we can't do it because it's a supermajority. Man the frig up. How worse can it be? Let the people have a say. People said the referendum wasn't possible, and look what happened. Now, the problem with the referendum is that once it passed, everybody fell asleep, and they allowed the friggin' council to go right back to business as usual. That's on us. People voted for that referendum. What, 505,999 people voted yes for that. And they were Democrats, Republicans, unaffiliated. They all voted for it. The problem is, like I said, we passed it. People fell asleep. And then everybody went back to their political corners and voted for the same idiots that did it. That is the problem we have here in the city. And it's not just the city. It's the state. It's the federal government. That's what people do. We all sit here and bitch and complain. But then every November, everybody goes to their sides and votes for the same people. And we wonder why nothing changes. Whose fault is that? It's certainly not the politicians. It's our fault. This year is going to mean a lot. And I hope everybody is ready to help push this thing forward. Because trying to get a charter reform that doesn't go through the city council is tough. It's going to be a lot of signatures. It's going to mean a lot of signatures. We're going to need a lot of people to be standing out there in the morning grabbing signatures at Dunkin' Donuts. We're going to take a lot of people to be sitting outside Stop and Shop and getting everybody's signature. It's going to take a lot of work. But I feel it's going to be greatly important this year to do it. And anyone who's thinking about running for office this year should be 100% behind it. If you're not 100% behind charter reform, I don't believe you should be on the ticket. You shouldn't be running for office because you're basically saying the people should not have a say in what they want to do and how they want to see their government move forward. It's supposed to be done every 10 years. It hasn't been done since 1996. Again, why is that? Because those that are in power like it just the way it is. All the power in the council, let the mayor sit there and take the shots. That's the only reason why the mayor's there. Why even have a mayor? If he has no power, why have a mayor? Your city manager should be the one holding the press conferences and taking the arrows because he runs the city. So why have a mayor? So either I think charter reform should be, listen, when we open this thing up, either we have a strong mayor or we get rid of the mayor and save ourselves almost $20,000 a year. We don't need a dog and pony show. If you serve no purpose to make change in the city, then you should be gone. Now, again, I firmly believe we need to have a strong mayor so that the people, you and I, and every other voter in the city could determine whether or not we want change quickly. Because the mayor will still be up every 2 years. And everybody will report to him or her. But to sit there and say we shouldn't do this just because of the makeup of the city council tells me that those people don't have what it takes to dig in and fight. And that's not leadership. Leaders want to push forward when things get tough. Leaders aren't afraid of a challenge. So I hold that to all elected officials. Are you going to lead? Or are you going to cower behind and say, no, sorry, it's too tough for me? We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. So I see they had a thing on Scarpati for this week. I saw about his campaign. In fact, I still haven't seen him file his paperwork yet. Now, since he did say that he was running, he does have to file his paperwork. I have not seen it yet. I'm going to check with the city clerk tomorrow and see if they actually have it in, because he has a certain amount of time to file once he declares that he is running. So we'll see what happens there. So obviously we talked about it. Was it last week or the week before? Kevin on This Week in Connecticut announced that he's going to run. And I noticed even during this piece by Mike Gagne, nobody ever questioned him still on his so-called unaffiliated status. I know Elaine, chairwoman of the Republican Party, did. I think that was actually brilliant. She said it's extremely early, but where was it? That her Cariotti said even though Scarpati is unaffiliated on paper, the mayor has never endorsed a Republican, which is true, and we've stated that here. So I like to know who he's working with because he's never come to us. As far as I know, he's only shown he's on the Democrat side. But that's not the point that actually got me. And this is, again, we talk about charter reform. We talk about, why the mayor is there. This is what Millie Ferguson, the chairwoman of the Democrats, said. She described Scarpati as someone who has done a good job. At what? During his time in elected office. He's been fair. He's been someone who is very approachable. There haven't been any issues. Ferguson also said that while they have had some disagreements policy-wise over the last term, those disagreements were approached amicably. Even when we disagree, we just agree to disagree. Well, yeah, that's easy because you don't care what he thinks. You don't care what he thinks. That's why you could agree to disagree, because you really don't care what he has to say, because he can't stop you from doing what you want to do. And the thing is, the people out there, the average mom and pop who are going out there working every day have no idea the way our government works. So they hear mayor and they think, oh, well, he leads the city. When he really has absolutely no power to do anything. So I don't know what he's done a good job at during this elected time. I mean, he says that we need to focus on building a business climate. Listen, you've killed that. Democrats have killed that. The people you have endorsed have killed that. The same people he endorses have killed. Remember, we talked about the stigma Meriden has. That's been created by Democrat leadership. But again, they've taken absolutely no accountability for that. None. And why should they? They have a fall guy. And they know the D will get them over the hump if they just shut up. That's why you notice during the council elections, do you notice that nobody says anything? I believe that each area should have their own debate where they talk about their area, and then the at-large could do one together. I noticed that the mayor's race takes all the publicity. And again, Democrats like that because, again, they're not held accountable. Democrats who run for city council, they don't say a word. A word. They have their one or two lines they do during the debate. And other than that, you don't hear from them. That's done on purpose. It's done on purpose. Because if you actually wanted to hear what they had to say, that'd be dangerous for them. I don't know how much we could express this enough that we have to get people engaged by any means necessary. We need to get people engaged into what is going on. I know times are tough. Inflation's high. Money's tight for everybody. Everybody's working 2-3 jobs at this point. But we got to do something. And we'll talk more about the mayor stuff and the city council stuff as we get into it. We're really early. Again, very shocking that the mayor announced this early, which again only tells me there's two things. One, he's not comfortable in his position that he has the power that he thinks, or he's afraid that he's not going to get the Democrat nomination and he's trying to clear the field, saying, "Hey, I'm running." And most Democrats say, hey, okay, well, he runs on our ticket, so I guess I'm not running. That's the only two logical explanations for why he did this early. And he's going to try to raise a ton of money, which he's going to need this year. He's going to need a ton of money. He's going to need at least $20,000 this year. At least. So, but like I said, we'll talk about more about that stuff later on. So the one thing that hasn't been talked about very much, and we actually, and I blame myself also because we haven't talked about it at all because there's been so many other things going on, is this Ohio train derailment. And the absolute shit show that's been happening in Ohio, in East Palestine, Ohio. So here's the issue I have with it. Is that, one, there's no coverage of it anymore. nobody is going to beat Kevin. Who's going to run and beat him? Well, I have a couple ideas of people who can, but we'll get into that in a couple weeks. But as far as this train derailment, I love the doublespeak that's going on here. Obviously, the government's not at fault for this. And I know some people are trying to blame the administration for not responding quick enough. Fair point. Fair point. But the only ones at fault for this, 110%, is Norfolk Southern, who actually runs the train. And I don't know if anyone has caught an opportunity to read the NTSB report that came out. Since I'm a nerd, and I was on the flight and I was reading it. And these train derailment, these alarms, and I didn't know this. And that's why, when these incidents happen and you read these reports, they're very fascinating on the technology that even a train uses to make sure they operate safely. And I didn't even know that the ball bearings in first of all, we're on a train. 2, they heat up. And 3, that there's actually a detector on it that lets you know when they heat up so that they don't turn around and derail. And at this point, before it derailed, they went through 3 alarms letting them know that they had hot bearings on the train, on a car. And that's what caused it to derail, because obviously it fell apart. Now, I will say this. Whoever thought that it was a good idea to vent toxic chemicals into the air, I think should be fired. Anyone who thought that it was a good idea to light toxic chemicals on fire, whether controlled or not, vinyl chloride should never be burned and let up into the atmosphere. But that's exactly what they did. And that I will not blame Norfolk for, because that was a government decision to do that. And that is done and controlled by the United States government. Now, I also can't sit there, stand by, and listen to President Biden turn around and say, well, we're giving them everything they need to do there to help the people there. And President Biden has ordered the federal government to do a door-by-door check of the homes affected by the train derailment. Why are we doing this 3 weeks later? And if it is such a serious environmental risk for all these residents, why did the federal government deny disaster relief when the Ohio governor asked for it? And again, we don't want to try to play politics about it, but it was the Democrats that brought politics in it. Because again, whose fault is it? Anyone know? Anyone know whose fault Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg is blaming? It's Donald Trump's fault, of course. Donald Trump is to blame. That's who our U.S. federal government, the highest ranking transportation official, is shifting blame to Donald Trump. Because Donald Trump said, well, we don't, electronically controlled brakes, pneumatic brakes, are not totally safe. And they haven't been proven yet. So we don't want to put it on trains that are holding chemicals. when we already know it wasn't the brakes, wasn't the issue. It was the ball bearings that were heating up. So why he would even bring that up is beyond me. But again, Democrats always fall back on Ezekiel Emanuel's, Emanuel's statement, never let a crisis go to waste. Rahm Emanuel, that's what I was looking for. Never let a crisis go to waste. And they are doing nothing more but trying to blame this on bring Donald Trump into it. It's like, why? When there are people actually suffering for one of the most horrific environmental catastrophes in American history. Why is our federal government, one, denying the state of Ohio disaster recovery status for that area, and then blaming Donald Trump about a system that wasn't even in question? This is what I'm talking about when I talk about where I just hate politicians in general. It just annoys the crap out of me. But again, if you look at any of the blogs, your hardcore leftists are sitting there, Donald Trump, look, Donald Trump. It's like, are you friggin' kidding me? How about we just get everybody there that they need to clean this shit up? You think that would be people's first priority? Making sure the health and safety of the town is cared for. Well, listen, their governor, there's nothing he could really do. And I don't think he's very cavalier about it. He's come straight out. And I think Mike DeWine has been very vocal about what he plans on doing. He plans on making sure that Norfolk is held responsible for everything. And making sure they're going to pay up. And they're going to be responsible for what happened. Because at the end of the day, this is 100% their fault. This is of their own doing. And Governor DeWitt is going to make sure they're held responsible for it. And going to hold their feet to the fire, as they should. But the fact that nobody's talking about this anymore, I think is quite disturbing. Because again, I think this is definitely, if not the worst environmental disaster in our country, is definitely second or third. So we'll keep up on that, and we'll see what's been going on there. Now, as far as everybody's favorite thing, we talked about this last year technically. We talked about it during the campaign last year. The whole student loan forgiveness program. So if anyone remembers this gem of a decision by President Biden, where he decided if you're just crawling from under your rock, if you four Republicans sent a letter to Pete Buttigieg demanding do something. Unfortunately, no, they can't do anything. No, and you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So Biden's student loan forgiveness program finally goes before the Supreme Court. That starts on Tuesday. Now, listen, they already know this thing's going to be struck down. And if you're just crawling out from under your rock from last year, if anyone doesn't know, Biden turned around and says, okay, we're going to knock off $10,000 off of everybody's college debt. And if you got a Pell Grant and you make under $125,000, you're going to get $20,000 off. Now, the president, and we talked about this before, the president of the United States has absolutely no power to do such a thing under any circumstances. Now, the only thing they can do during an emergency is modify. And that is their waiver, which they've been doing for the last 2 years. So right now, Biden was saying, okay, well, you don't have to pay your student loans for 2 years. He has the right to do that. He could defer the loan, which means you just don't pay it. It just adds on to the end of your loan. So if your loan was supposed to end in 2023, it's now going to end in 2025. That's all it means. He has the power to do that. Now, like I said, even when he did this, you can do that indefinitely if you want, as long as there's an emergency. So the pandemic is technically over now. So really, that wouldn't apply going into next year. But no one complained about that. Now, you are not allowed, the executive branch in general, in anything, no matter what it is, cannot spend money without Congress's approval. So technically, if you're going to forgive a loan, you are therefore saying the U.S. government is going to pay your debt. Because remember, the U.S. government doesn't own that debt. Most of that debt is owned by banks. And they're guaranteed, just like an FHA loan or any other business loan or home mortgage that's under FHA or federal government, they guarantee your loan. So therefore, what that means is if you default on that loan, the United States government will pay for it. So these companies don't lose money. Now, like I just said, the executive branch is not allowed to spend money without Congress approval. And again, when the President Biden came out with this, I couldn't believe it. Nancy Pelosi was the first one at the microphone saying, you can't do this. You can't do this without our approval. You can't go above our heads. You can't take the kind of credit that we're supposed to get. So even Democrats know this isn't allowed. But I also told you that this had nothing to do with student debt. When this was announced back in July of last year, this had nothing to do with loan forgiveness. It had everything to do with trying to get their base motivated. They knew with everything going on with high inflation, with the running out of formula, with gas prices and all these things that were compiling on Democrats, that were snowballing on them, they needed something to distract. They needed something that was going to say, hey, we need to get our base fired up. So they said, okay, well, let's go to one of our big promises we've been making for years. We're going to cancel student debt. Now, I firmly believe that the White House knew damn well they had absolutely no jurisdiction to do this. They had no authority to do it. But that's not what it was about. It was about getting it out there, saying, hey, look what we're doing for you. Aren't we great? You should vote for us because we're canceling your debt. But they also knew what the Republican response to that would be. No. You can't do that. People have to pay their debts. And that's the reaction they wanted. Because they can sit there and say, look, we're for the little guy. And the mean Republicans are trying to stop us from helping you cancel your debt. That's all this was about. It was just a political game. And honestly, they don't care that this is going to the Supreme Court and that they're going to lose. They already know they're going to lose. In fact, where's the quote from the Solicitor General? Here, U.S. Solicitor General, who will defend the administration's program on Tuesday, says not only is Cardona's actions, our good friend Miguel Cardona, Secretary of Education, who is administering this plan, actions justified by law and exactly what Congress had in mind when it passed the HEROES Law in the wake of 9/11, which was totally different. And she's basically saying, well, since the Supreme Court is now a supermajority conservative, it's not encouraging for the president because they know they're going to lose. But again, that's not what it was about. Right now, you're going to see the Supreme Court turn around and strike this down, and every Democrat's going to get to the microphone as quickly as possible and say, look, this Supreme Court is going rogue. They are super conservative. We need to expand the court. Guarantee it. Once this ruling comes out, which will be in October, you're going to hear every Democrat talk about expanding the Supreme Court because this Supreme Court is just too radical. Mark my words. That's exactly what's going to happen. When really, they're doing nothing more but following the Constitution. The same Constitution and the same ruling that every Democrat who took the podium in Congress when this was announced and said, you can't do this. And I'm waiting to see how many Congress people turn around and go to the defense of the Biden administration. This is nothing more than a political game. And it's not even a good political game. Because you already know what each side's going to do. It's not even like a mystery book. So, you gotta, yeah, you would think you'd love the Constitution. But the Constitution, again, and this isn't just for Democrats, unfortunately, it's Republicans too. They people use the Constitution when it fits their agenda and go against it when it favors their position. We don't have any constitutionalists anymore in government. There's a couple, but far and few in between. So we'll talk about this more next week. Like I said, oral arguments start on Tuesday. I really don't see the argument for the administration, but we'll see what it turns out to be. But did anyone else happen to see the report that came out from the Energy Department? So the Energy Department finally reported on COVID-19. And guess where it came from? Now, President Biden's Energy Department, who was doing the investigation on the likely place of where COVID-19 came from. And they concluded it came from a Chinese lab. Whoa, oh my God. Who would have thought that the coronavirus came from a Chinese laboratory? Now remember, when Republicans were saying this at the start, we were dismissed as fringe conspiracy theorists. When it didn't take rocket scientists to figure it out. It came from a corona lab in China. But we kept being told, well, it didn't come from a lab. It didn't come from a lab. Now, even the Biden administration is saying COVID-19 likely came from a Chinese laboratory. Where have you seen the media asking questions about this. How can you be wrong so many times and not be called out on it? This is the problem with our media. Because they would pass it off as disinformation. For 2 years, they passed it off as disinformation. Just like the Hunter laptop story was misinformation. But yet, even the own government finally has to turn around and say, hey, gig's up. Yeah, that's where it came from. Why are we not? I don't get how reporters are not up in arms about being lied to for all these years. Last time I checked, it was the media's responsibility to hold government accountable. That's the whole reason for freedom of speech and freedom of the press. But you don't hear a word about it. You don't hear a word about it. You put all these things together and they wonder why nobody trusts the government. But yet, I also understand why most people feel. And again, when you're out on the campaign trail and you're talking to people, is you get this one consistent thing. Well, my vote doesn't matter. My voice doesn't matter. Nothing's going to change. Or my favorite that's just going to irritate me to no end instantly, it is what it is. That's not how it is. It's only that way because we allow it to happen. We allow it. Therefore, it is. Again, I hate to circle this all the way back around, but it's up to us. If we want change, it's up to each and every one of us to help make that change happen. I know it's a tough task. Trust me, I know. Been in it for years. Decades. And again, it's the same reason why when people ask me, Joe, you ran for office all the time, you keep losing. Why do you keep running? Because again, winners never quit and quitters never win. And if anyone who tells you why do you keep running because you keep losing, that really tells you something about them. Is that they're not leaders. Because only a weak leader would say that. I wouldn't even say a weak, they're not even a leader, they're just weak. Just a weak person will tell you that. We'll ask that question. Because if you have to ask that question, it means you're not ready to lead. Leaders don't back down in diversity. They just don't. They tighten their boots a little tighter and they go right back at it. Anyone who tells you you shouldn't keep doing it because you keep losing, just know that when times get tough, they're not going to be there. They don't have what it takes. I love when people tell me that. Oh, you keep losing. Who cares? I would run 1,000 times and lose. As long as I stay true to myself and I keep the people in mind. And I hope every politician thinks that way. Hopefully going forward. So I wanted to give an update on I want to finish up on this update on this voyeurism with the assistant coach, because I saw that the warrant details were released. And I got to tell you, this kid is the dumbest fucking kid I've ever met, or I've never met, or I've ever heard of. Or he really is just that unlucky. Now, I don't know how your phone could mysteriously go into video mode and be recording. But I read this warrant, and I got to tell you, kudos to this girl. Kudos to this girl. Now, if I was her, I would have ended the recording and I would have sent it to myself so that you had it. Because immediately he erased it. And you can see him on camera manipulating his phone. So erasing everything that's on it. So if I was her, it doesn't say that she did it or not. They just said that she shut it off and that was the end of it. I would have sent it to myself just so I had the proof. But kudos to this girl. And to that piece of shit, listen, that wood chipper is a great place for him. Is a terrific place for him. But if you didn't have an opportunity to read it and you want to read it, it's on the Record Journal. You can go ahead and read it there. But it is quite disturbing that these are people that are in our school systems. And again, I'm not just picking on Meriden. This could happen anywhere. So this isn't a Meriden thing. This could happen absolutely anywhere. And it does happen everywhere, unfortunately. It is quite sad. But again, I think this is the issue you have when you have a 23-year-old working amongst 16, 17-year-olds. They're practically the same freaking age. I don't know about you guys. I remember high school. I remember all my teachers were like 60, 70. I don't know about you guys. But I don't remember any young teachers in my school. So, but I think that, again, and I don't want to, I just think it's a problem. And I think it's something that should be looked at. Should there be an age appropriate level for your teachers to be when going into a high school or so? And I hate to try to put people in boxes, but listen, when this stuff keeps happening, and when you have, again, teachers having affairs with students and this and that, if you look at them, they're all, for relatively speaking, they're all pretty close in age. And I think that's a problem because they both have the same mentality. And some of these older folks, like this gentleman here, he's thinking like a high schooler. It's just something that I think needs to be looked at. And now hopefully we could kind of get this stuff. The brain does not mature until late 20s. Yeah, well, for some of us, it takes a little bit longer. Some people will say I'm very immature still. But I just take it as I just don't care. But I think I'm mature enough. But again, I just think it's something to look at. I think maybe there needs to be a study done on it. I think maybe there needs to be a study done on this, on the effects of having young people in our high schools teaching. But I just want to make sure everybody was updated on that. But the only thing I really do have a serious issue with, though, is that this occurred back on January 5th. This occurred on January 5th, and not a single parent was made aware of this. They didn't know if this was an isolated incident. The investigation was still going on. So why something didn't go out to the parents about this is disturbing. But again, this is just following the trend of the Board of Ed that I've had issues with for a long time. Is that they like to hide things. The Board of Ed doesn't like their dirty laundry put out there for all to see. When the people have a right to know what's going on out there and inside our school system. And when things like this happen, this should immediately be sent out to the parents so that they are fully aware of it. But that's for a whole new conversation, maybe next week. But again, I would disagree. Okay, this is not a non. Okay, then I would agree. Okay, but until then, we'll leave it on that note. Obviously, guys, be careful. It's going to have a lot of snow tomorrow, apparently. I'm not happy about that. Again, go check your oil levels. Please, please, please. Go check your oil levels. We're gonna knock down prices on oil tomorrow. So for those of you who are watching the show, now you're gonna know. Fill her up. We'll be knocking down prices tomorrow. So make sure you go check your oil levels. Please, please, please don't be calling me on a Tuesday night or on Tuesday. Don't want to hear it. I know I'm gonna be very upset if I have to come out and track through the snow. We're not gonna be friends, at least for that brief moment in time. But go check out your oil. Oil will be down to around $3.29 tomorrow. So there's a little heads up for you guys. But we'll make sure we put it out on our Facebook page. But I got to go put the plow on the damn truck. That sucks even more. I thought I was going to get through the whole year without having to put the plow on, without having to plow anything. Apparently that's not going to happen. So be careful. It's going to start tomorrow night. It's going to be all day Tuesday. So I anticipate there's going to be no school on Tuesday. So make sure you have something for your kids to do so they're not out there causing trouble outside. But if you're watching this show, your kids most likely aren't doing that. Until then, until next time, guys, I love each and every one of you. I thank you guys every time for coming and joining us on the program. And again, keep those emails coming. I enjoy reading them. But as always, God bless you. And as always, God bless this amazing country we live in. I will see. We should have a snowball fight. We should have a snowball fight. I'm all for snowball fights. Name the place and time. We're all there. But until then, guys, God bless you. And obviously, God bless the United States. We will see you guys all next week. Peace.
And the million faces formed together, made for elevation. And the soldier won't surrender. Faith is like a fire that never burns to embers. The voice of the unheard.